All right, today we're doing something a little different. Think of this as an intellectual salvage mission. We're going after a whole way of seeing the universe, a philosophy that wasn't just lost, it was hidden, on purpose.
So let me just ask you this. What if a really powerful way of understanding the universe, one that saw everything as a single connected mind, what if that idea wasn't just forgotten over time, but was actually deliberately erased from history? That's the mystery we're diving into right now. So, how does a big, influential idea like that just disappear? How does it get pushed so far into the margins that it's practically forgotten? Okay, to really get this, we need a way to classify it. In our framework, Hermeticism falls under what we call dark and obscure philosophies. These are worldviews that were once a huge deal, but now they're pretty much only known by a few specialists. They exist way outside the mainstream story of history we all learn.
And this is what makes this so cool. This isn't just some boring history lesson, right? We're basically becoming initiates. We're getting a chance to uncover this lost hybrid of science and spirituality. It's about discovering knowledge that for a long time was considered totally off-limits, forbidden even. All right, the scene is set. Let's get to our first big clue in this investigation. We need to look at the one core idea that made this entire worldview tick. So, the philosophy we're talking about is called Hermeticism. It's this amazing blend of spirituality, philosophy, and even magic. And it's all based on writings from this almost mythical figure, Hermes Trismegistus, which means Hermes the Thrice Great. Pretty cool name, right? And this tradition gave us one of the most powerful and honestly revolutionary ideas in history. It's all summed up in just 4 simple words. As above, so below. But what does that even mean? Well, it's this incredibly profound idea about unity. It's saying that the huge, vast universe, the macrocosm, and you, the individual, the microcosm, are reflections of each other. The same patterns, the same rules, maybe even the same divine spark is operating everywhere, from the biggest galaxy down to the smallest part of you. In short, everything is connected. Okay, so if this idea is so huge, so powerful, where did it go? Why aren't we all talking about it? Well, to answer that, our investigation has to jump to a very specific moment in time, the exact period when this worldview started to fade away. So check this out. Before the 16th century, Hermetic ideas were everywhere. They were influencing art, philosophy, even early science. Thinkers like Isaac Newton were deep into this stuff. But then, boom, 2 new giants stomp onto the scene, the scientific revolution and a much stricter, more orthodox theology. And as these 2 gained power, Hermeticism got shoved, step by step, to the very fringes of what was considered acceptable. And you have to understand, this shift was no accident. It wasn't just a change in fashion. We've seen the what, now let's dig into the why. What was it about this worldview that made it so inconvenient, so threatening to the new powers that be? You really see the problem when you put these 2 worldviews head to head. On one hand, you've got Hermeticism, which is this messy, beautiful hybrid. It mixes mysticism and observation, spirituality and science. It saw no problem with that. But the New Order? Oh no. It needed everything in neat, separate boxes. Faith over here, reason and science way over there. There had to be rigid boundaries. And Hermeticism? It just blew those boundaries to pieces. It didn't fit anywhere. So here's the bottom line. Hermetism got silenced because it was just too challenging. It was too inconvenient. It muddled up the simple stories that both organized religion and the new sciences wanted to tell. And maybe, just maybe, this is the most important part, it was a threat to power. Because if you teach people they have a direct line to the cosmos, they might not need the institutions, the church, the state, to tell them what to think. And that's a dangerous idea for anyone in control. And that brings us to the end of our investigation, to the final verdict. And it really gets at why this whole intellectual salvage mission matters so much. Look, the takeaway is this. The eclipse of this universal mind philosophy wasn't an accident. It didn't just fade away. The evidence points to an active campaign of intellectual censorship. It's a classic story, really. Powerful ideas that challenge the people in charge often get pushed aside, or even buried to protect the status quo. So I'll leave you with this final kind of chilling thought. If a worldview as massive and profound as Hermeticism could be shoved into the shadows, what else is out there? You have to wonder, right? What other forbidden philosophies are just waiting to be rediscovered? What else have we been told to forget?